On behalf of the Badminton Pan American Confederation, we warmly welcome you to our Coach Corner program. My name is Richard Wong, and it is my pleasure to be the moderator for today's session. Welcome to this new edition of Coach Corner, a space for learning and sharing experiences within the badminton community. Today, we have the pleasure of having Naim Mohamed, a prominent athlete and coach who has represented Trinidad and Tobago in international competitions and has developed his career both in his home country and in Denmark, a world leader in the development of badminton players. Before we begin, I should inform you that today's session will follow an interview format, which will allow us to delve deeper into the opinions and experiences of our guests. Now, please allow me to showcase the highlights of his professional career. Naim represented this country at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, an event that brings together the best athletes from various disciplines worldwide. In 2014, he ranked among the top 10 junior athletes in Trinidad and Tobago, reaching a world ranking of 83. He is a BWF Level 2 coach and currently works as a coach in various clubs and schools in Denmark. Naim continues to compete at an elite level while also coaching at various clubs and schools. Good night, Naim. Thank you for joining our audience and welcoming us from your home in Denmark. Are you ready for this short interview?
I'm ready. Hi, Richard. Good to see you again, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much also to Badminton Panam for this amazing experience. I've been looking forward to this for the past few months. A lot of planning we've been going through, and a lot of mails and writing in between how we're going to do this and the time difference and all of that. But I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to having a talk with you about some differences in trainings.
Okay, great. Okay, so Naim, before we get into more technical matters, we'd like to know a little about your story. How did you fall in love with badminton?
Yeah, it's a long story, I think. I've been playing for the past 18 years, almost 19 years. Came from I am from Trinidad and Tobago. I started playing around 10, 11 years old in high school. Joined a lot of different clubs. I made it to the national team, and I think when I was 16 or 17 years old, and it went well from there. Um, I think what made me fall in love most at badminton is the sound and the feeling you get from hitting a shuttle, the speed you can play at, and the social part of it. You know, having so many friends around, and you're with so much people all the time. Of course, traveling is always a plus because you experience so much different cultures, so much different food, and of course, much more badminton at different levels. So I think the experience of badminton alone in itself made me fall in love with it more and more and more. And to this day, I keep falling in love with badminton more and more.
Excellent. Yes, I know the feeling. Uh, who are your main roles in role models in badminton, and how did they influence your development as a player and as a coach?
Yeah, I have a few. Um, so I can't say that I have any favorites, but I have a few who I always think about when I play now as a player and also work as a coach. I mean, in Trinidad, there are some names that I will never forget. Had a big influence on my game and my my role as a person in society and within sport. And that will be Anil Paul and Darren Desant. And my first two coaches, actually, Sabrina Cassie and Zudi Mack, they began coaching me. My first official coaches in CBAC. Um, so there are a lot of people that I can't forget. I think every name that has been um, that I've met has had an influence on me to some extent. So yeah, and now I've also had Annalise Paul for a couple of years. I'm pretty sure you know Annalise Paul too from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, I was just in Trinidad.
Yeah. In 2017, I met Martijn from the Netherlands, and he's also had um, a very big part to play in what I do, and of course what I'm doing now here in Denmark. And now that I am in Denmark, my previous head coach, Sune Gavnholt, And now I have Matthias Basker and a lot of people here who have different influences and different roles within the sport that I really can't forget. So it's a long list, but those are some of the bigger key names that I go to when I need some help or think back on where I came from.
Okay, excellent. Yes, you have a strong contingent in Trinidad. I saw all of them on my last trip to Trinidad in January.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Now we will begin with a round of questions which have been structured by topics, as shown in the following slide. Before we delve into the technical and methodological differences in youth training, it is important to understand the context in which players develop. Naim, you have had the opportunity to train and compete in different countries, including Malaysia and Denmark. What key differences in training methodology have you found in each country where you've been? And what are the specific challenges you've faced and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, good question. Um, to start with, when I went to Malaysia, I was 18 years old, 2015, really curious about badminton, playing at a high level or trying to reach a high level, and wanted to see what badminton in Malaysia was like. I always heard about it, of course, always watching TV and or YouTube and seeing Lee Chong Wei play and all these big matches. Um, but now that I work here in Denmark as a coach, the first thing that I realized when I first came here in 2018 was how much more quality there was in training compared to the Asian countries, and not just Malaysia, but most Asian countries. In Denmark alone, they practice for maximum 2 hours, where in Asia or Malaysia, in my experience, was sometimes 3 hours per session or 2 hours per session, and that's sometimes 2 hours just running 400 meters or 200 meters. Um, Sometimes sorry, 3 2-hour sessions per day. And in Denmark, we have 1.5 hour at mornings and 1.5 hour in the evenings. Sometimes a rest day, sometimes one practice session per day and a gym session. But I think the main I said the main difference is the quality in Denmark and how much more focus they put into training and what they do, why they do it, how they do it, when they do it, and understanding more within the sport. So much details after details with yeah, the smallest thing possible. So they always look at the small things and building that up into the bigger things. Where in Asia, it's one big picture of okay, we need to get faster, we need to get stronger, we need to hit harder, we need to move better. But in Denmark, it's how, when, why, who, what. Um, Challenges I faced there, yeah, uh, it was tough. It was hard in the beginning. It was hard because we had to run a lot. It was a lot of running, more than we do in Trinidad. Luckily, the weather was the same. Temperature is yeah maybe a bit more warmer than Trinidad, but inside the badminton halls it was baking. Some days you're changing socks, some days you're changing shoes, some days you're changing 3 or 4 shirts per session. Um, so washing a lot of clothes, but food was almost similar, but I mean Asian style. So that was helpful. Coming from a country where we know we like spice, and yeah, that helped a lot in Malaysia. Culture was good. I grew up as a Muslim, so in Malaysia, all my coaches they were Muslim too. So that had helped a lot within our yeah our bond as a team there in the club. Yeah, and but when we were on a badminton court, there was no difference there. You know, they're gonna beat you, and you gotta try to beat them. So that was tough.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give to a young athlete preparing to train or compete in a country with a very different sporting culture than their own?
Yeah, good question again, Richard. So in my experience, I think the biggest challenge for me was coming to Denmark and overcoming a lot of different challenges here within the sport and within the system and society here in Denmark. Coming from warm country, Trinidad and Tobago, we are used to, of course, warm temperatures, nice spicy food, and a totally different society. I think for me, what helped me the most is having an open mind here in Denmark. and understanding that some things we need to change, and understanding why, and seeing the bigger picture, not just thinking, well, I know it this way, and this is the only way it has to be. But taking what I can from other coaches, from other players, and understanding how it can work for me, and trying and discovering new things every day. It was a lot in the beginning. It was hard because I came, and I guess I went from here to down here to down here, and then came back up a bit slightly with badminton and with the mental part of it, because you had to face so many different challenges every day: language, food, weather, society, system, the way everything works. So I think what helped me the most was open mind, being strong in that open mind, and not saying, well, I give up after 2 weeks of just trying, but just continue to grind, and to do what you have to do, be disciplined in what you have to do, and understand that there's a bigger picture. There isn't just this way, but it's also this way. Yeah. So open mind, discipline. Um, Uh, yeah, and it sounds easy, but that is the way. I mean, it's easier said than done, but you need some things you need to experience before you can actually say, well, I did it and I've been there. But that's what
Uh,
helped me.
okay. Well, I mean, you seem to have moved to Denmark at a relatively higher age. You said you were 18. But for a younger child, a younger athlete, it may be a little bit more difficult for them. They don't have the maturity that you might have had at that stage. How do you think they can mentally and emotionally prepare for this experience?
Well, in my defense, when I came to Denmark when I was 21 years old, and
Okay.
in Malaysia I was 18. But uh, if I were to come to Denmark at 18 years old, I'm not sure I would make it, to be honest. I think it was too much. I think it would have been too much. And a lot of times I think about other players who come here, or players who I can possibly invite to come here, but I know it's a really, really hard uh, culture change. And I know what it took from me. So a lot of times I just think, do people really have the guts to try to do this? What I do? It looks easy when I do it, but it wasn't as easy as people mostly think. Um, again, open mind. If you're gonna come here or come to a different country, any different country, you need to be open minded to different things, and the way things are done is of course you grew up in a certain way where badminton in Trinidad or your specific country is done in a certain way, or the food is done in a certain way, or you drive in a certain way, or the culture is a certain way. Yeah, but when you go to a different country for your own interest, you have to accept how things work there too. Language is one, weather is one. These are things they can't control. So as long as you can get better at controlling the uncontrollable things, things can work, things can fall into place step by step. And that's why I got better myself here in Denmark, by trying to control the uncontrollable things, which when you're beginning, which I thought were uncontrollable, which was the language and the food, but for example, and the weather, most importantly the weather, because when I came here in August, I left 35 degrees in Trinidad to come to Denmark where it was 19 degrees. And for me, that was cold. That was really cold. Wind blowing every day, and you have to wear 2 layers and always tracksuit to the hall, and warming up in tracksuit and all that. In Trinidad, you just go to the hall and put your shoes on and run for 5 minutes and you're warm. But these are the things you have to learn to control. And as long as you have an open mind again and discipline enough to keep trying to control these things and not letting it get the best of you, that's gonna help a lot. But that again, that comes with age, that comes with maturity, that comes with experience. It's not just a thing you can just decide one day, I want to do this. In all honesty, if I didn't go to Malaysia in 2018 and spent 8 months there, I'm not sure I can make it in Denmark, because that was like a big stepping stone for me, understanding culture, understanding change, understanding how things work, understanding myself and how good I am at controlling things that I possibly can't control. At one point in Malaysia, I was understanding so much of the language that I could speak to them to sometimes, the really, really basic stuff. But I began to learn, and I began to adapt. And these things make a big difference, because you feel better where you are, and you feel better with people. It doesn't just make you a better badminton player, but you feel better as a person, and you have more confidence in what you do and how you go around and spend time with people. So people think, well, I'm just here for badminton, but it's a lot more than that. Badminton is a small part of where you are. But when you come into a different country, it's much more things you have to consider, not just badminton in your hall and hitting 1,000 shuttles a day. That's a small thing. You need to go home to other people where they're speaking 10 different languages. And in fact, and I say 10 different languages because when I first came here to Denmark, I was staying at a sports school where there were there were people from different countries, from Iceland, from Mexico, from Faroe Islands, from Denmark, from Sweden, from Norway. So you're hearing all these different things, and you need to understand that there's a different cultures here too. So open mind, trying to control what you could control, and learning, being able to absorb what could work for you, how it could work for you, and discipline, mental discipline.
Okay. You seem to have had a lot of adaptation. In regards to that adaptation, how do you think it has helped you to improve your performance and personal development as an athlete and a coach?
Well, from the athletic side, when I first came here, I was playing full time. I would say it was tough in the beginning, and in my second season, it began to get better because I got a bit more used to the weather. I understood that okay, I can't control the weather, but I can control how much I dress. And there's one thing I'll never forget. My coach said to me that time soon, he said, I just went to the hall one morning and I said, it's really cold. I can't get warm. I need to run some more. And he stopped me and he just said, there's no such thing as bad weather here in Denmark where it's too cold. You just need to have more clothes on. There's only bad clothing. And that hit me for a second. Like, I can't control the weather, but I can control how much clothes I wear on. So maybe I need to have more tights on. Maybe I need to have more long sleeve on before I go to practice. Maybe I need to come to the hall a bit earlier and run a bit more, do some more things to get my body warm. But I can't control the weather, but I can control what I wear. And that helped me a lot as a player because my body could get more warm before I practice and I could have a better practice. I could have better team matches. Um, I got better with the food because food here again is very different, but I got better at eating a lot of potatoes and red bread with lots of fiber and yeah. Um, the language began to creep in as well um, in my second season, so that gave me a bit more confidence to be with people and to be with yeah more people within society. So when you're speaking one language, it kind of reduces how much interaction you can have with people in society. And now that I can speak Danish, it helps a lot. Yeah. But in my second season, of course, I couldn't speak so much, but it did help that I could understand a few things like I was in Malaysia, speaking it very, very basic.
Okay. So how many languages are you at now?
Oh, I'm only at two. I forgot almost all the Malaysian I could speak, which wasn't very much. But in school, I learned some Spanish, and I think I forgot all my Spanish too, just so that I could learn Danish. I mean, Danish is tough. Um, I first began learning here officially 2021, around December, online classes. But before that, I could understand from speaking to listening to my colleagues when they were at lunch. But I was so afraid to speak because I would be afraid to make a mistake. And if I make a mistake, I just sound stupid. So I didn't want to be embarrassed of myself. So I just kept listening and absorbing what it is saying and how they say it and their dialects and yeah, and watching a lot of movies and Danish and all that. And when I began online courses, it just went fast. So here I am, yeah, speaking two languages, mostly Danish every day. But yeah, it is funny.
Okay, excellent. All right. And we know that parental involvement plays an important part in the development of junior players. How can coaches work with parents to create a supportive environment that fosters growth and success in young athletes?
Yeah, Richard, I mean, I got a question to Richard. There's a lot of things I can discuss here with this because with as a junior head coach here in ECAS, I have a lot of responsibility for the parents of the players in my club and the club. Um, and a lot of times I see parents a bit too involved in their child's success or career or yeah or period in their life where they're playing badminton at a fine level, at a good level, or even at a low level. But sometimes I find parents to be a bit too involved, and uh, I think the Danish model or the Danish society is parents don't get so involved within their child and their children and how much they want to do within sport. They let them choose themselves, let them decide themselves. They give them this sort of independence that if you want to play these much tournaments or whatever, we'll help you. But you need to understand too, of course, you have school, you have social life, you have to rest. And badminton is again only a small part of what you're doing now. You're only 10, between 10 and 17 years old, for example. Maybe you find a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, or you have some extra exam with schools or something. So parents, I think parents can help by guiding, but not by telling their children how to do it, when to do it, what to do it, and trying to influence them to do different things. Or leave that for a trainer, leave that for the coaches, leave that for those who are responsible in the hall. If you have any recommendations, of course you're welcome to come by the coach and say something, but don't try to direct the child in one different way when the trainer or the club is helping the child go in a different way. I mean, that is their job. That is what they do for possibly a living, and that is what they are trained to do. So sometimes parents can be a bit too involved. From my experience, I try having a talk with the parents before it gets a bit too much because as a trainer for young players, I could easily see a difference sometimes when a parent is in the hall compared to when a parent isn't in the hall. And after many talks, I've decided not to have any parents in the hall because the children feel more free. They don't feel like they have this pressure on them where their parents are looking and, oh my God, my dad saw me make a mistake, or he's upset now because I lost to this girl, or my mom is there, or I'm shy, or whatever. They are so young and they play so much more free. They have so much more fun. They are more them. And I'm so happy I made this choice to throw them out of the hall. The parents, of course, just deliver your kids. The first 10 minutes, you're welcome to be there. The last 10 minutes when they're playing matches or whatever, you're welcome to come again. But during the training itself, please refrain from being in the hall. We have a cafeteria. You could go for a run, do something, but give the players and their children that time to be themselves, to enjoy what they do. This is not this They're not playing badminton for you to live your dream that you couldn't accomplish. They're playing badminton for them because they think it's funny. They want to play with their friends and they want to get better within themselves and within the sport. So um, a key thing that works for me is having a talk with parents, communication between the parents and the player, if necessary. Sometimes we have a one-on-one meeting, sorry, two-on-one meeting where parent and child talks to me, and we find out what's working, what's not working. Is there a problem? How we can we fix this? So again, being open, communication within the parents and the player, and again having some I think I'm quite young. I'm 28 years old. I'm not a parent yet, so I have no idea what it feels like to have a child. Yeah, we're trying to bring up a child within sport. So I take, or not take, but I try to ask a lot of people who are parents as well what their experience is like within their child in sport, and try to see what I can take from this and what can work for me as a trainer to help the kids in the hall. So it's not only me deciding sometimes how things should be done, but it's a group of ideas that I try to make into one and say, well, this is what I think should work or should not, well, hopefully work. And if it doesn't work, then we find a different solution. But I as well need to be open and communicate about how things are going within my players and parents in the hall.
Okay, now that we better understand how culture influences training, let's explore the differences in methods in Europe and Asia. Okay, so Naim, what are the main differences that you observed in training of junior players between the places you have coached in Europe and those in Asia?
Um, Biggest difference I've seen is that in Asian countries, no matter how old they are, they have to work really, really, really hard. And of course, I encourage my players to work really hard. But in Denmark, where I am now and where I've learned a lot the past almost 7 years, is that they need to have fun as well. And they need to have fun and need to understand that it's not only about working hard and winning every match at practice, or of course you want to get every single shuttle over the net, but at the same time, if you make a few mistakes, it's okay. But you have that energy again that next time I'm gonna do better. But I think the key difference that I realize and what works here is they have fun within the sport and they play so many different games together. Um, they go home learning something instead of just being totally busted or after 2 or 3 hours training. So it's not just about working hard, but also enjoying what you do and having motivation to come back. Because I've had some experiences where players couldn't come back because they were so tired, and that's not good. That's not a good experience because if somebody is demotivated because they're too tired, then something is, then maybe it's too hard for them, and they need to fix something there. They need to have fun too. It shouldn't just be a burnout when they have to come to practice. It's just they're just afraid because they're gonna get tired and their back hurts the next day or their leg hurts the next day. Or that's not funny anymore. You need to have fun and go home with some with a feeling that okay, today I had fun, but I learned something. I played really well, and I'm looking forward to go back tomorrow. Um, yeah, a lot of small games, a lot of activities within the club or within the players, like eating out together, going to do some fun things together, like we do here in ECAS. We go to bowling. We have pizza nights. We have sometimes a movie night, and we do a lot of things together. So it's not just I come to the hall and I go home and that's it. There's a lot more there's a lot more togetherness within the society here within the club.
Okay. And did was that similar to what you experienced in Trinidad? Because I mean, in Jamaica, we used to have that also, where the team would bond outside of the badminton hall. Did you have that in Trinidad also?
Yeah, I did. I did to some extent in my later years, my last few junior years and going into the senior years. I have a close group of friends. I can still recall we had a lot of good times going to practice and going home from practice and going doing different things together. But as a part of a national team, I can't recall. No, it was just practice together and go home and go to these tournaments in Jamaica, for example, or Aruba or wherever it may be. But it's also because we live so far apart. A lot of players coming from the east and the south, and I was kind of in the middle, so I could easily move anywhere when I had gotten my driver's license. But for others, it wasn't so accessible, and that's okay. But I'm pretty sure if everybody was, I guess, that fortunate at that time, then it would have been much more funnier being a part of a team and having more togetherness. Because yeah, in all honesty, there is a separation gap in Trinidad where this team is this team and this team is this team. I mean, in Denmark, you never know who is who because there's so much togetherness. Everybody knows everybody, and it doesn't matter how good you are, but there's respect out and off the court. And yeah, if I could fix that gap in Trinidad, I would, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah. Okay. So, you mentioned having fun and stuff like that, but how important do you think it is to have competition and pressure in the training of young athletes?
I mean, we do pressure them. We do push them a lot. We it is important because in my experience, if they can learn from a bit younger age, it'll help them when they become older and older. So they have this experience, and when they go out and experience it for themselves during a match or during a tournament, they can kind of refer to the experience they have in training. So we make some setups sometimes in practice where some more tactical stuff where one person or one pair or is leading by a certain amount of points, or we get in some more tactical stuff to focus on during matches. We push them, of course, in the physical way, um, with footwork and with the physical capability. They need to be strong, of course. So it's not just badminton we do for the all the hours per week, but we do some physical training as well. Um, but I think I wouldn't say I pressure them all the time because I also have to understand that they're also in school, and if now we're referring to junior players, then I would say that I wouldn't pressure them so much because they have school, they have a social life, they have a family they have to go home to. So we need to accept all these things and not just say to them that every training you have to give me 110%. And if you don't have 110%, then I want 108%. One thing I learned here from previous coach, he said, no matter how you feel today, you chose to come to the badminton hall, you chose to come to practice. Even if you feel 80% of your energy level, then give me your best 80%. And that's what we want. And if at some point your 80% goes down to 75 or 60 or 50, then talk to us. So again, communication is key. So we know what to do. And we know we need to find a different court for you where you can do a bit more technique training, or you need to go home because it has happened before where I've had to send players home because they couldn't keep up or they just were too tired, and that's okay. But yeah, sometimes it just needs to be open and again communicate about these things. These things help me a lot as a coach, especially for junior players.
Okay. In your training, how is creativity and decision making fostered in the game for junior players?
Um, Creativity, yeah, good question. We play a lot of different small games that can help, especially with the technical parts of how they play. A lot of small games like on a quarter courts or net games. A lot of three against three. A lot of something I play a lot with my kids sometimes. It's something called volley ton, where you're playing three on a court with volleyball rules. Um, and then we have yeah, decision making where sometimes we play some games where as a double pair, but only one person can hit it maximum three times, and so it makes you think sometimes, okay, where should I play it? Who should I play it to? Should I when should I play what and why should I play what? So again, playing a lot of different small games, making up a lot of different small games, different rules. These things help uh, younger players, especially, sometimes have some fun. But if they can't understand it, they can get them quite pissed off. But then they learn along the way that it's just for fun, but it also gonna help you when you can understand. So small games, a lot of different competitions within training to warm up. Um, it also gets the mind a bit more woken up when we have these small games at practice. So it helps a lot.
Okay, very well. We'll continue with our next topic. Discipline, motivation, and enjoyment. What strategies do you use to keep young athletes engaged and passionate about badminton, even when training becomes demanding?
Uh, my own philosophy, I guess you can call it, is that when a player comes to the hall, I expect some energy level from them. But what's most important for me is that when they go home, they can think back and say, today I give what I had. I learned something. Um, I played well, or not so good, but I can look forward to playing well the next day. But it's important that they learn something or they understand something a bit better. Um, I think this to me keeps my players engaged a lot because they can always go home and think, well, I got something out of today's training. There's always something I can look forward to. There's always something that I can look back on that can help me tomorrow or the next day or sorry, the next tournament or the next match or whatever the case may be. So um yeah, that keeping them educated, I guess, and in every small way possible. With regards to passion, yeah. Again, that comes with some communication because I need to know how they're feeling about training, of course, and how did it go at their last team match, and what's working for them, what's not working for them. A lot of my players are going to school, so a lot of my talk sometimes are how is it going with school because maybe they have too much assignments or too much stress in school, and this can take down their passion a bit because the energy level is a bit down. This is just my experience. So again, finding a balance here within these things, and of course, like I said earlier, communication is key, especially with young players. We need to be open and talk to them and understand how they are feeling, what's going on in their minds, because some people or some players they can't just come out and say these things right away like an adult. Maybe they're not just that open, and that's also okay. But we as trainers need to understand and see these things early if we can, and try to help and keep that passion and that desire burning in them, that they want to come back and play, and they want to have fun, and they want to look forward to the next training, and they are satisfied with what happened today, and they learn something. Although they maybe lost their matches in training, they learn something, that okay, maybe next time I don't try playing a backhand smash every single time, or try smashing 10 meters out of the court or whatever.
Okay. How do you identify burnout in your athletes? And how can burnout and early retirement from the sport be prevented?
I mean, early retirement, I'm not sure I can speak so much on, but burnouts I can sometimes easily see within my players. They are young and they look quite tired. A lot of times they come into the hall, they walk just past me, and you can see under their eyes it's getting dark. Um, Sometimes that's one example. That's one early example. Second example is the energy level they have while they're practicing. How well they're doing their drills during training, how much energy they give, not just to themselves, to their matches, but also to their teammates who are also practicing with them. And you need to be aware when you're coaching, and to talk to these players and ask them, okay, what's going on in your head, and how can we fix this? If it's just too much training, if it's too hard, if it's too much things with school, or some players also have sometimes some family problems that's affecting, some problems. And yeah, so I think what helps me is uh, being aware, and how can we prevent it again is with communication. If you can realize it, then have a talk with the player, try to understand at least what's going on. Um, if necessary, you need to have a talk with the parents, but communication is key, understanding what's going on in their head, because we can't just guess and say, well, um, it's going okay for John. We can just give him some more stuff to do, and then it doesn't go so well, because training isn't just for John, it's also for John and Michael and for Sarah, because they need to work together. And if John has no energy, then it doesn't give a good energy vibe or a good vibe to the players. They just feel demotivated too, because one person is ruining that session. So we need to have that openness and, yeah, communication again.
Okay. How are you able to prioritize the quality in your training sessions, especially with, you said that your training sessions are maybe an hour and a half. How are you able to prioritize the quality in your training sessions then?
Yeah. Um, in Denmark, whether it's junior or senior, when you come to a badminton hall, I think when you come to any sports, any sport, the society brings you up in a way that they expect everything you have, and they expect you to do everything to the best that you have. So again, if you're feeling 80%, you give your best 80%. But we try to keep this quality by simple things. Uh, Being on time, being a bit earlier, having a good warm up, being aware of our players, what they're doing on courts, being aware of what drill they're doing, or sorry, or how they're doing their specific drill. Um, um, yeah, really helping the players understand why we're doing certain things, and explaining in detail how we want certain things to be done. Uh, we also ask questions when explaining stuff, if everybody understands, because we want to make sure that you understand what's gonna happen, how it happens. Um, Details, looking at the smaller details, understanding again how good is going on the court or with the player. And if the quality is going down, for example, let's just say a pretty basic example is a mistake every 4 or 5 shots out or into the net, and we need to just have a small talk for 30 seconds, and just say, okay, we need to get things going now, because sometimes with players, you need to explain that, okay, we expect you to do a lot, but it's for you. You are here for you. You are here to give your best. No, a rally isn't gonna last. Or a rally of 4 shots isn't gonna help you get any better. Keep my legs moving. Try to go for every shuttle you can go for. Don't just stop because it's too far away. and keep pushing them as much as we can. Um, so yeah, but again, quality is just one thing. So you can push a player, but you also need to look at how they're doing it. Sometimes a player can get back every single shuttle, but maybe it's too short, maybe it's too high, maybe they're scrambling all over the court with some messy footwork. So again, being aware, looking at the small details, and trying to have some control of what's going on. So as long as we're in the hall, we want to be as a trainer really really on and really really aware of what's happening to keep the quality high as possible.
Okay. Many coaches feel pressure to increase the training hours to achieve better results, right? Do you have any advice for them where that is concerned?
I mean, you can anybody can say that they want to have more practice and more hours, but I think again, quality over quantity. For myself now as a player, I prefer to have 4 hours, sometimes maximum a day, where it's just really good quality, where I have my mind really on and what I want to do and how much I want to do, and knowing sometimes when to stop. Um, but everybody can easily train for a couple hours a day sometimes, but the quality is important. How intense your exercises are, the intervals you're working at. Some people get really specific and work with heart rate monitors or VO2 max and all these things. But if you're not working hard enough, then again the quality isn't hard enough. Your quality isn't good enough. So working hard is a key, of course, but quality is I think is most important to um, how it works with regards to how much hours you want to do. I think maybe have a bit less hours, but more quality in your training, more focus on what you're actually doing.
It's time for the next topic. Quality over quantity in training for junior players. Now, you kind of spoke a little bit about this in the previous topic. Naim, how does your approach to prioritizing quality in training change when you work specifically with junior players compared to older athletes? What kind of special considerations do you take into account for their long-term development?
Um, yeah, I do work with both ages, like a senior and junior, but when you prioritize junior like we speak about now, I wouldn't say I do much of a big difference with the training itself. Of course, I speak to them differently. Of course, the training is maybe a bit lower intensity, but I try to get from them as most as I can for themselves and make them understand that the quality we want now is for your development, and having them understand that the interval needs to be shorter time, but also really really high intensity for your own benefit. So explaining to them that hey, some things are tough, but we need to get moving. Um, prioritize quality again by really looking at these smaller details, explaining a lot, talking a lot to them, and showing a lot of what we expect. Sometimes I use video to help my players understand what I expect from the training or how we should try to do things. Um, so that they have a better idea of what we expect to get from this exercise or this technical drill, or why we should use so much more underarm in this shot, or how we should push with our legs in our footwork or whatever the case may be. Um, so a lot of focus on explaining the details matter, and Uh, yeah, again, being aware as a coach and making sure that they give their best. Uh, again, it is my job, yes, but I'm also interested that they get better every time they come to practice.
Okay. How do you assess whether a session has achieved quality results in junior players? Are there any indicators for technique, tactic, attitude, or motivation that you look for?
Most of the time, I can see it within attitude. Um, with younger players, and I think also with older players. if a session doesn't go too well, you can easily see someone is a bit sad or in some cases a bit upset. But again, I'm not just looking at the end of a session, but I'm looking at it throughout the session. So within the session, if I see it's not going too well, I have a talk and I ask what's going on, or I say something. We need to get uh, this chord, for example, a bit more. Uh, you need to get a bit more focus. Uh, yeah, have some more rallies going, or whatever the case may be. Some more footwork or some more movement on court, even if you're doing just technical exercises. But a lot of times with juniors, I can see it in their attitude because they are a bit sad or a bit upset. And when they're going home, I just say hello to them or just say bye-bye to them and ask, how did it go? So I want feedback. I think for me, what works best is feedback from my players and asking them themselves, how did it go for them? How did this exercise help them? And can they see the reason we're doing it? Can they see it helping them? Can they see how it works? Um, so yeah, feedback and sometimes seeing it on their faces when they are about to go home. A lot of times you can see a happy player and you just know it went well. But again, I want to know from him or her that what went well. Was it the exercise? Was it the training itself? Was it the matches that he just won or she just won? Yeah, feedback key.
Okay. Okay, we've explored the importance of discipline and motivation in development of youth players. Now let's focus on their evolutions towards high performance. Naim, you mentioned your desire to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the Olympic Games. How do you think the focus on player development can contribute to achieving this long-term goal?
We're speaking about in Trinidad.
Well, I guess in general.
Um, yeah, I had a dream to make it there, but I think what players, parents, and coaches should look at is the process and not just the outcome of seeing those big five rings. Um, People get sometimes get drowned in this dream, and everything can just go left. But I think what can help is really focus on the process more than the goal itself, and focus on the journey of the sport that you're playing, regardless if it's badminton, football, hockey, whatever. Um, of course, you need to have a goal, but be open to and be open to understand that things can happen. In my own experience, funding was an issue. Luckily, I never had any major injuries, but injuries can be an issue. So focus on the process, enjoy the process, have fun. Of course, dream for the stars, aim for the stars, and keep your dreams open. But I think having an open mind again and just focusing on the process could be a big help.
Okay. Now, you've been traded at in Denmark at ITKA's badminton club. In How has that training affected you as a coach in how you coach younger athletes?
Yeah, I've been training here for the past 6.5 years, and what's helped me the most is understanding first the culture, society within the club, and the way training is done, how much communication there is within the training, before the training, and after the training. A lot of times, get experience as a player where there's just training. You talk to your coach just there, and there's no feedback within the session itself, or even after the session. And it doesn't mean that we are texting or writing emails all day, saying that okay, your player was too short, or you need to work on your serve or whatever. But feedback within the practice itself. Um, what's happening the most with junior players is not treating them always like junior players, but treating them almost like adults. So we have that good balance in our relationship with each other. I don't talk to them like they're kids unless they really have to. But sometimes I just treat them like athletes. I don't look at their age all the time and say, well, you're only 13 or 14 years old. But I think of them as an athlete who wants to get better within the sport, and you're here for your development regardless of your age. Um, yeah, let's get to work. Uh, Communication, feedback, uh, being open to my players of what I expect of my own expectations, and I also want to know their expectations from me, and also from their training, or I want to know their goals itself, what they expect to achieve in the next 2 or 3 months. So we always have a talk every 3 or 4 months of how's it going, what's going wrong, what's going right. Have you achieved this? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Okay, so today we've seen that there's no single path to success in junior badminton. The key is to understand the differences in training methods and adapt them to the needs of our player. Naim, it's been a real pleasure to learn from your experience and your vision. Do you have any final words?
I do, Richard. It's also a pleasure talking with you. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you in almost 10 years, we can say. I want to thank Badminton Panam for the amazing opportunity I've had today to share my experience as a coach and also as a player here. I hope that I can help a lot of coaches, players, parents understand how things work within not just badminton but also sports. And I look forward to having possibly more talks about these things. I think this is essential for development within sports, and it helps a lot getting experience from people who work in the area or who work in the specific places where sport is treated as a job in some cases. And yeah, there's a bit more respect to it given, especially here in Denmark with badminton, for example. But thank you, Badminton Panam. Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure. And maybe see you at some point in a badminton court.
Okay, look forward to it. Before closing today's webinar, we salute all our audience who joined us today, especially those who sent their photographs. Thank you. So we have Gelsi Rojas from CRC, Max Antonio from Mexico, Richard, and the tutors and coaches in the CE1 course in Trinidad in January 2025, Universidad de Costa Rica, Club Esperanza de Quilpe in Chile, Jose Alcantara, Mexico, David, Chepe, Pilar, and Javier, Bidolif and BPAC family. Many thanks to our audience, Norberto, Sebastian from Argentina, Edgar, Bolivia, Juan, Chile, Blanca from Colombia, Randy and Gelsey from Costa Rica, Shirley from Guatemala, Moises from Honduras, Audley from Jamaica, Jose, Jorge, Sharon, Max, Antonio from Mexico, Heidi, Araceli, Guillermo from Peru, Eduardo from Paraguay, Martin from the Netherlands, Rokiatu Amadou from Senegal, and Marcel from Congo. On behalf of Badminton Pan America, we thank you for your participation and hope that you enjoyed today's session. Stay well and stay safe.